demo section. So what I'm going to show you today is a few different workflows that I use today is, one, capturing a meeting in Otter AI. How do we take all that data and get actionable with it? A content generation process when I'm in front of a client or, I have deliverables. How do we take all that data and take the grunt work off of us and use it to create content? GPT, that's where we could use it to write emails, have it do summaries from large documents, and then also create contents. Notebook LLM, I'm going to show you how I ground and I organize notes, do focused research, how I use something really cool called their podcast feature. And then ChatGPT, which is going to be really generating and refining content, right? So how do we take the outputs from a Notebook LM or an Otter AI and how do we refine it into something presentable? And then the last portion I'll be showing you is Perplexity. How do I use that for deep research? The cycle here is really capturing data, summarizing it, drafting some sort of content out of it, grounding it in our company data or in the customer's data, researching, and then refining and auditing at the end. So I'll get started here. We'll go here to Otter AI first, and I'll show you this. Pretty much what I did is that I created a, kind of like a faux demo org for a company called AI Productivity Solutions. It's a mock consulting firm that helps companies craft AI strategies. So what we're going to start with is we're going to use a pretty realistic scenario, a sales call with JP Morgan Chase, deciding how to move forward on a proposal. And we'll go through that right here. So as you can see, it takes a call from this transcript right here, the raw text, and it says, here's the overview. And basically, exciting news, JP Morgan Chase has selected AI productivity as their strategic partner for their enterprise data platform initiative. It calls out specific requirements, what the approach looks like, what the partnership aims are, some of the ROI, and really a lot of the key points that you need to know so that if you're asked about this account or deal by somebody, you can quickly pull up a summary and understand next steps. Even competitive differentiators it pulls up in sentiment. So it has the action items below here. And the really cool thing about Otter is that you can actually check these off, and then it'll usually at the top corner here, what it'll have is it'll have all of your action items across all of your conversations. And basically how you use Otter is that you set it up and then you integrate it with your Google Calendar or your Microsoft Calendar, and then it's automatically going to pull all of the transcripts from your calls and it's going to populate it into a summary like this. So the action items here, it looks like, we have to execute an MSA with processing agreements. We have to provide AWS with account access. We have to discuss the possibility of a joint case study or a press release. Very cool. And then some of the insights it has below are around budget. There's a $20 million target. It has some key KPIs around ROI. It has, kind of everybody who is in the room on the JP Morgan Chase side, all the executives, the need, the timeline, and then, pretty much an outline for the whole call that goes over everything from next steps to the implementation kickoff to communications and closing remarks. What we're going to do as our first use case is that we're going to go into the transcript and we're going to copy and paste this. And what we're going to do is say I wanted to write an email to the JP Morgan Chase team, and I want to give them an idea of what next steps look like, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go into ChatGPT. I'm going to ask it to write a recap email to the team with 3 next step bullets. Read the transcript below for context. Make sure to keep this tight and succinct so it's easy to read through. Boom, so we have everything there. And then we're going to put this in AI, and then what it should do is, boom, it's going to give me a concise and polished recap email that I can send to the JP Morgan Chase team. So it's saying, thank you, next steps, recap and next steps. Let's make sure that we validate it very quickly. And it's coming from Alex Thompson, who's, kind of like a fictitious account executive. It has everything in there. And then it's usually going to ask you, do you want me to format this Word for an Outlook email? Usually we don't need to do that. So instead of all that grunt work, we can just take this, go back into the email, and then boom, we copy and paste, put the subject line, And boom, instead of us taking all that time to do this, we have an email in real time that we can send out to the client and ship out. It makes it super easy. Now, let's go to the next use case. Can you create an executive summary? And really what an executive summary is, it gives the customer an understanding of why we're doing what we're doing, and it's kind of serves as their single source of truth. Our shared goals and ROI key metrics. Boom. So it's going to take this and it's going to create an executive summary that's ready to be presented in front of a board. So boom, it's giving us that executive summary. It's specifically asking why JP Morgan is doing this, why they chose us for our deep financial services expertise, for our partnership model. It shares our shared goals, and then boom, it has all of the key ROI metrics and accountability framework so that everybody is on the same page and understands what we're doing. And what we would do after this is that we'd copy this into a Word doc and we'd send it to the customer. We'd be like, hey, here's pretty much everything we're running at and that we agreed on. And it just helps create a great communication. So boom, that's an example of how you would do this. So you'd simply just take this, you'd copy and paste it, throw it into a Word doc, and then ship it off into an email instead of you having to write all this. But again, always make sure to validate and make sure this is on the same page as your expectations. We're going to go to Notebook LM and we're going to take an SOW template from our library, and we're going to use a meeting transcript to take a first pass at filling out the SOW. And it's going to come from what I just showed you in Otter AI, that call transcript of the final decision that they made. So let's go into something called the JP Morgan account resources. And basically what I created here is it has a repository of every interaction I've had with the customer. So it has all of our transcripts. It also has a deck that we went through. And basically what you could do in Notebook LM is that you could take a bunch of sources, you can customize those sources. So, if you go here, you can add sources easily. You can either choose a file, you could choose a Google Drive, you could use a link like a website or straight up text. And then also a really cool thing is discovering sources. So you can have it search the internet and search for sources so that if you're preparing like some sort of point of view and you want to add some external sources, you're able to do that. But for now, we're going to keep this only grounded in the data from our customer conversations and the content that we shared with them. So pretty much what I'm going to ask to upload a sample contract from Notebook LM, and then I'm going to take the Otter transcript and I'm going to say, hey, based on the content here, can you take a first pass at creating an SOW for me, right? So I'm just going to go in here, I'm going to copy and paste it, and then I'm going to go into GPT. Below is our framework for a statement of work that you can use to fill out what was agreed upon during scoping. So boom, we've got this. And then below here, right here is the transcript from the scoping call. Take a first pass and fill out what information you can in the SOW. We can come back here and we can go to the account resources tab here, and we can go into the scoping discussion. We copy the scoping discussion in here. Then we go back, paste it, make sure it's all in there. You have, okay, awesome. So it's filling it out right here automatically for us in the same format that it's in Notebook LM. And pretty much like, this isn't gospel again, but this should give you a really good start of getting that document together so that you don't have to go through it all on your own. So as you can see here, it's, pretty much taking our statement of work, writing it, grounding it in our formats. And this is very helpful for, document generation. So this is an example of how you can cut that time down for yourself. For something like this, for SOW specific items, I would make sure to check with your company's policies to make sure you're not putting yourself in a situation. Some companies won't let you use AI at all for SOW generation. So just always make sure to double check. But this is a really good use case of how you can take a transcript and you can use it to make it easier to generate content and deliverables. Okay, next, let's talk a little bit about how we ground and organize information in Notebook LM. So let's go back to Notebook LM, and I'm gonna just overview a few of the resources I created. So again, these are the JP Morgan account resources. So everything that's happened with an account, think of it as your data repository for every account or a person that you've worked with at that company. It has all the context around the conversations you've had, and also PowerPoint presentations and PDFs or executables that have been shared with the client. And then we have an internal repository for company resources. So pretty much what you can do is that you can go in here and you can access all of your company resources that have best practices or guides on how to do your job. And then the last portion is a research notebook. Is usually I have a research notebook that can get hyper focused on what topics I want to research, and it's also grounded in some of our data, so it keeps it focused and trained. It's really just my private knowledge hub. It's all searchable and grounded in real company contents. Let's say JP Morgan, my customer, reaches out to me and says, "Hey, Patrick, I heard that you had a really interesting customer case story with American Express." Instead of me having to go through a document and put that all together, I can go in the productivity resources, and we actually have a case study in here, a case study document for all the companies that we've done work with. And what I'm going to do is that instead of doing this all myself, I'm going to go into Notebook LM and I'm going to say, "Can you talk about the challenges they faced?" So we're asking Notebook LM right now. What it should do is it should give us a summary of what we're looking for from the customer story. So give it a minute here. So it gives us all the challenges. It gives us all the measurable results. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, copy and paste it. I'm going to go back into GPT and I'm going to say, "Giving James all the key points needs to understand about the case study." So boom, it's all specific. It's in there. We have it right here. Now it's going to write it into an email for us. So that customer request, instead of it taking 30 minutes, it quickly does this for us in less than 2. Now, of course, what you're going to want to do is that you're going to want to go through this and you're going to want to make it sound like it's you. The way I think about all of this when it comes to content generation is AI takes it 80% of the way, and then we fix the remaining 20% and tailor it. So you would take this, you would throw it in your email, you would make some editations, throw it in there. Sometimes the formatting can be a little bit off, and this is why we always refine and we audit it. And pretty much what this email can serve as is that you would attach the case study to this too, but it makes it easier for James, the customer, to read through this and get a preview, and then he can decide if he wants to read more. Let's go back to Notebook LM, and what we're going to do next. Something that comes up pretty often is if you work in a customer-facing environment, and especially if you're in consulting or sales, you're going to have to work with legal in some sort of capacity. And the thing about legal is they love red lines and they love poking holes in agreements. Let's say legal asks us about our MSA. Luckily, in our internal resources, we have our MSA grounded in here. Say they have a question and they email you and you say, "Patrick, tell us about your severability clause." So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, "Hey, legal, can you give me a description of that, please, so I can share?" That it's going to go to all these sources. It's going to pull from the master services agreement, and it's going to give me information about the severability clause right here. And then what we'll do, as you can imagine, no guesses here. We're going back into GPT. We're going to say, "Hey, how it works." So boom. So there we go here. So it's going to create an email for us based on, "Hey, legal team, here's everything you need to know about the MSA." And then we would take this, we would throw it in an email. We would, of course, check it to make sure it's all right. There you go. Instead of you having to dig through your MSA and manually put that together, you can take it. So this is really the theme is if you deal with a lot of contracts in your job or large documents with tons of text, you can quickly find specific pieces of information of it using both Notebook LM and then using GPT to refine it, or a Gemini. Boom. let's go on to ROI summaries. So let's say you meet with JP Morgan Chase, right? And you talk to them about, you have a conversation with them around ROI, right? And you need to basically get, like, instead of going through the entire ROI calculator, say you want to go, hey, I just had a conversation around. So pretty much what it's going to do is it's going to go to this ROI calculator that I created, and it's going to be able to give me best practices and tips on how I need to. Notebook LM, not very good for content generation. It's not the easiest to read through. So to make it easier for me to read through is I'm going to take this, and no surprise here, I'm going to go back into GPT. I'm going to paste it, and then I'm going to go, this is a framework from my company on how to calculate ROI for a customer. Can you take this and break it down into subject lines and bullet points so it's easier to read through? I took all this, which was really overwhelming to go through, and now I'm making it into a way easier to read format. It's giving me the entire framework. It's writing it for me. Again, always validate and make sure this is accurate. Now let's get into kind of how we can leverage the account data information and do some really cool stuff with it. A common thing that we're going to get is, you're going to get questions from, if you deal with customers in a customer facing role, or just questions from teammates about conversations that happen. You can also get really granular and specific with it. So for example, say someone pings me on Slack or email inside the company and says, hey, Patrick, I cannot for the life of me remember if Patricia Chen agreed to do a POC with us. Can you verify? So I can go in here and I can ask, did Patricia Chen at JP Morgan Chase agree to do a POC with us here? Boom. So I'm going to ask it, and then it'll pull from one of the transcripts, and it should confirm here in a moment that she did indeed said that. So that's really just a sanity check to make sure that everyone has, yep, right here. So agree to proceed and participate in the POC process. Say someone on the team dropped the ball, right? And we need to get a note out to Patricia that's confirming the next steps. Again, we can take this into Gemini. I'm not going to show it this time, but you get the idea. We'll take this and we'll write it in an email so that we can share it with Patricia Chen at JP Morgan Chase around next steps. Let's talk about how we use this for research and discovery. So let's go into our financial services research tab that I created. And basically what I have in here is that I have an AI adoption industry report that I have written from the company. This is the company's perspective on AI. So we're making sure that we're taking our specific POV in all of our messaging. So what I would use this tab for is, like, whenever I'm trying to come up with like some sort of document around, research, or, like a point of view, which is really just a document that summarizes why, if I'm pitching something to a customer, why would they do that? Why would they consider it? You can go in here and you can take the internal company data from the industry research report that you have. And then you can also discover external sources for specific topics and have it research it for you. And that's how we got these other external services. And what I had asked it before was, I went into this bar and I said, can you give me top reputable sources on what's going on with AI in financial services? So submit, and then what this is going to do is that it's going to discover sources online. And then what it's going to do is it's going to give you the option to keep certain sources or not, so that you have control. You can do that auditing. Give it a moment here. Sometimes it takes time. Okay, great. So it pulled reports from places like Deloitte and all the top consulting firms. No surprises there. And then you can uncheck or check sources that don't align, right? And then you can add them directly into here. Boom. Now let's do something really cool here. So where I'm going to say, I'm preparing a POV for JP Morgan Chase on the state of AI in financial services. Can you use our internal industry report on AI adoption and leverage external sources from reputable consulting firms on their stance on AI and what the trends are. So again, what we're going to follow here is that we're not going to take the direct formatting of this, but what it's going to do is it's going to pull from all this resource and it's going to give you all the information we need, and then we're going to refine it in Gemini. And then boom, state of AI in financial services. Really cool, right? So it gives us an entire summary from all these sources and it cites them to. You can go back to GPT. You can say, can you create a point of view for JP Morgan Chase, who is a prospective customer of mine? Explain to them how key market trends correlate with the value our services provide. ROI looks like. Consultant style point of view, you can send it, boom. So it's taking all this and it's writing an entire executive summary around the market context, state of AI, how we help customers, grounded in our data, and it's basically going to give you an entire dissertation on, how giving you an understanding of how we can help you and what the strategic opportunity is, how we've helped other customers. Boom, just makes it easier for you. That wraps up kind of the research for Notebook LM. Now let me show you Perplexity. Now, what Perplexity is really good at is that its deep research tool is, for some reason, it's the best at pulling like PDFs from websites, stuff that's embedded in websites that GPT or Gemini sometimes doesn't pick up, and it lists citations. So say, hey, Mike, I am meeting with my customer, JP Morgan Chase. Can you pull all the information I need to know regarding their priorities as a business so I can craft a refined POV? Ask it specifically, please include information from 10Ks, annual reports, press releases, tweets, whatever on the internet is reputable. And then what it's going to do is that I really like Perplexity's UI here. So it's going to summarize what it's doing for me. It's searching all of the, like, see, and it's going to show you all of the sources it's pulling from that are recent and reputable. So this usually takes a few minutes. It's going to take about another 2 minutes. What we're going to do while that's going on is we're going to go back into JP Morgan account services, and we're going to create an audio overview based on all of the account history. So say I'm walking into a call and I want to understand the full context of an account, say that I'm being moved on it from another project, or if I'm being moved on it from another account team, I can have it generate a podcast format so that it's easier for me to understand what's going on. So let's go back to Perplexity and see what it's given us. So as you can see right here in Perplexity, it lists all the sources at the top, and then you can also look at the sources in a citation style format, like a research paper, and you can go read into the articles if there's something specific that interests you. But this is where it's going to summarize it. Its core strategic priorities, boom, artificial intelligence dominance. So it gives you an idea of where they're at right now, so that when you have a conversation with them, you understand the context of where they're at, what their focus is for modernization, focusing on their top KPIs. They're really big on branch expansion and physical presence. They're trying to grow their wealth and asset management teams. Here's their financial performance insights from 2024, their business segment priorities, pretty much everything you need to know around what their focuses are and what they care about so that you can tailor your discussion. And then boom, it even gives us the CEO outlook and concerns. So Jamie Dimon's shareholder letter. It's going to give you an idea of their risk posture. So again, just better preparing you for a discussion, or you can take this and you can make cold outreach out of it, like an email to James Dimon. Good luck on getting his attention. He's a busy guy, but I mean, the more tailored you can get, the higher chance your outreach is going to have a response. Let's go back to LM and see, okay, it's still generating the audio review. So what we'll do while that's still being generated is that we're going to go and do something. We're kind of going to connect everything together. What I'm going to do for our final exercise here, I am going to go back into Otter AI, and I actually have another call here that we're going to use for a prep call. Now, what the point of this prep call is, and the workflow I'm going to take you through is we're going to take a transcript, we're going to capture it, we're going to ground and refine, we're going to ground it in Notebook LM, we're going to refine it, and then we're going to be able to turn this information into action. So pretty much what we're going to do is that we're going to take this call transcript, which was a prep call with an internal teammate, and this teammate's giving us advice on how we need to approach a call at JP Morgan Chase. It gives us our action items, it gives us our outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the entire transcript, and I am going to GPT, can you take this and I can use it to generate content. Boom. Basically, I'm going to take this prep call that I have, all the advice that this coworker gave me about approaching my call, and it's going to make it just easier for me to really prepare and do that prep. It's giving me a discovery approach. It's giving me their strategic focus, the purpose of the call, the key stakeholders, the focus areas, recent press releases, compelling cases for change, what they're going to need to see for proof and credibility. So our specific use cases with other customers like them. We're going to take this, and then we're going to go back into Notebook LM. We're going to go into our productivity resources. I mean, our internal resources, right? And in here is actually going to have, it's going to have like our case studies, and it's going to have a MedPick guide. So basically what I'm going to say is, can you take this a talk track on how to approach the discussion? Let me take this. Boom. So we're just going to ask it for, our MedPick best practices. And then pretty much what we're going to do is, instead of copying and pasting it from GPT, we're going to take the output here and we're going to put it in there. And it should be grounded in our, yep, great. So all of the stuff that we need to acknowledge during the discovery for JP Morgan Chase. And it's going to help us prep. Grounding it in MedPick. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come back here. Okay, great job. Now I want you to call with JP Morgan Chase. So what it's going to do now, boom, structured clearly around MedPick. So now when I'm prepping for the call, I'm doing it the way the company wants me to. It's giving me an entire talk track. Again, always audit this, but it's going to specifically call out all the portions of MedPick, and it's going to make sure that I ask all the questions to keep the ball moving forward and to qualify the deal. So super interesting use case there, but I'll take it actually one step ahead. The entire talk track here. Now, what we can do that's really cool is that we can go back into Notebook LM, and then we can pull a deck, which is like a sample deck. And what we can do is we can download this deck. I already have it downloaded. So what I'm going to do for my final portion is I'm going to take that sample deck and I'm going to add it as a file, PDF doc. And what I'm going to do is, based on the above talk track, create a slide by slide talk track that's presentation. So boom, what it's going to do is that create a slide talk track that aligns with the slides in this deck. It's going to give you a slide by slide breakdown, so you can literally copy and paste this and put it in. But again, validate this first to make sure it aligns. So pretty much instead of having to do this manually, you can do it all on your own. It's such a huge time saver. The demo today and how you would use all these tools together. I've covered everything from research to content generation.